How about that? How lucky are we to bring this up? It really makes you think. It doesn't have to be that complicated to communicate with each other. I'm honored to bring out DJ Kurs, the artistic director of Deaf West Theater, please. Melissa S. Draganac-Hawk, the head of the Pennsylvania School for the Deaf. El Maestro, the music and artistic director designate, New York Philharmonic. Gustavo, Dudamel. And wow, María, Valverde, the director, El Canto de las Manos. Melissa, I'll start with you. I'm curious, from your perspective as an educator working with deaf students, how does El Canto de las Manos help promote inclusion and visibility for the deaf community in education and beyond?
I think the film, what we saw tonight is so powerful. As I was saying earlier to you, the selection of moments that you chose, it showed love, sadness, frustration, struggle, the challenges in life, and I think that really reflects the challenges that the deaf community often faces, not just in Venezuela, but worldwide. All three of your lead characters had experiences with language deprivation, which is not uncommon. 93% of deaf children come from hearing parents who may or may not learn sign language. And their first interaction with their child upon finding that they're deaf is shock, and rather than joy. And there's concerns about whether they can speak or can't speak, share the same languages, and often they're led by a pathological model which tells them that they need to speak. And the window for learning language is a small window, and as it closes and takes longer, it's harder to pick up language. Deaf children naturally will pick up a visual language. Jose was talking about his experience of not learning sign language until he was 17 years old, which is a very late age to begin acquiring language. And yet, I mean, he's doing beautifully, but that will linger for the rest of his life, the impact of that language deprivation until 17. It affects your depth of thinking, your cognitive abilities, your creative abilities. All of these are stressed when you don't have language at the ready. I mean, you saw him in some of those moments where he couldn't learn the words, couldn't memorize the lines, and that struggle is really related to the experience and the effects of language deprivation. I hope that people seeing this think of other children in the deaf schools that provide language at an early age, and it's very important for parents to learn sign language to communicate with their children.
Thank you. DJ, Deaf West Theater has long been a leader in making art more inclusive and accessible. I had the privilege of seeing Ty Giordano and Troy and it was Animal Farm, I believe.
At Home at the Zoo?
Yeah, yes, Zoo Story. Was it Zoo Story?
Or was Home at the Zoo?
Yes, in 2003, I believe, in Los Angeles, and also Big River. I also saw in 2007, Coy Middlebrook, I went to grad school with, and he was involved, and I remember just being absolutely blown away. But this feels like a new level of collaboration. What do you think projects like this, what do you think they could teach the broader performing arts world about inclusion and creativity?
Today in the film that you saw the story of deaf people who enter a world that is unfamiliar to them. And through a process of making art and learning together and acquiring that language, they made it their own. They made a new art form their own. And it's a way to communicate to the world in their way, their hopes, their dreams, share their culture, share their language. And the power of that platform that Maria and Gustavo has created for them, that to me is a beautiful act. For me, performance itself is really the best way to learn about the deaf community. Being in a room with deaf actors and hearing actors together, you're learning about each other. You know, you're learning about your shared history. And I think it might conflict with their own home life, their own personal journey. Deaf people have to fight for employment, have to fight for their rights. And then they come into a room where these things exist for them. And so through this everyday process of us being in the room and going through a journey together, I think through art and through performance, we can make the world a better place, like with what you saw in the lead characters in Maria's film.
Gustavo, did you know when you married Maria that she was a master filmmaker?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. I don't even know where to begin with this film. You are able to explore so many different things. It really blows my mind. It should be a required viewing for all of us. I have many questions. Do you mind?
Try to do my best.
The first one is the concept of actually making it one man's journey, which is Gustavo's. It starts with him and then ends with his realization. And you sort of put us with him through the experience. That was just a wonderful concept of bookending it, number one. And having him walk down the street. Was that always how you wanted to invite us in through Gustavo?
Well, yes. Gustavo is the reason everything is happening at the end. And Gustavo is the person who makes their dreams come true. So Gustavo was the person who has to tell the story. And by the way, he hated to shoot that last shot.
And I've never seen you with a beard. I've never seen you with a beard before, unshaven.
But yes, I always wanted to have that big and long shot with him. Also coming back to his own city and to his own town where he was learning music. So it has a lot of meaningful, that lash and also the beginning shot. But at the end, the reason Gustavo is telling the story is because how important a person can see you, which that's what is happening. Like Gustavo can see them from being the choir to give them the opportunity of their lives becoming the main characters, not just only for the opera, but for their own lives. So it's how important a person can see you.
And at the same time, I'm watching him learn something because he tells us almost his fear, his apprehension. How can I serve Beethoven? How can I do this right? You know, you would say that thing like maybe what would he think? And then at the end, he learns something. So he's not just taking us through. I feel in the end that because we feel so different, and also we witness him. That was the thing about it that I found so moving. that he wasn't just this sort of all-knowing arbiter, helping shepherd this cause. It couldn't help but affect him as well. And knowing who he is and what he's achieved and what he's able to do, to see the impact this person was very, I think, an important, vital element for us to realize just how powerful this is, that it is beyond sound.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's the reason you made and you wanted to celebrate Beethoven, not only for his music, but also for his deafness. And I think that's the journey Gustavo already did, making Fidelio with that West Theater, with the Coro de Manos Blancas and the La Filarmónica de Los Angeles. I think it was for everybody that started that project, everybody learned something, and it's that we didn't know anything. And that's the beauty of it, and how if somebody wins, everybody wins, and we are everybody in the same boat. So I think that has been the whole journey. And in a documentary, I try to materialize that with 3 of them. So
let's talk about those incredible human beings, Jose, Gabriel, and Jennifer. Weren't they incredible? Oh my God. And Beto. I love when, did I get this right when Beto says, you can't deceive in art? Is that what he says?
No puedes desistir del arte.
You can't deceive in art. Does he say it?
Que no se puede mentir.
What he was saying when he was, or that was
Like
the
you cannot lie.
Yes, he says that early on to all of them, that's sort of the first moment of like, oh, we're going for truth here. We're going for truth, and then you go on this journey. So my first question is, so it's a 6-month process, right? That's in the movie. So was that how long you spent with them? Was it the 6 months? I mean, you were at Disney Hall right at the beginning.
Yeah, so we had, we shot it in 3 blockers, in 3 parts. The first one was from the 2022 when they were doing Fidelio at Los Angeles Philharmonic, and then 6 months later we were traveling in Venezuela because Gustavo wanted to make auditions and to prepare the Fidelio in Caracas. And then we came back 6 months later. That's where we found out Gabriel was having a baby, and we didn't know anything when they were doing Fidelio. So we learned everything since in the way. So we had to, we have to follow Gustavo's dream and idea, and that's why I had to have the best team ever that follow us in this craziness journey.
So I'm an actor, and I can relate to everything they were going through. When Jennifer's giving the pep talk in the mirror, yes, amazing.
Yeah.
Jose's praying.
We do that a lot, right?
Yes. I was like, yep. Tell me, so what made you land on the 3 of them? Because I assume you had to get to know everybody, and then tell me about that process.
So I met them all in Los Angeles. That's how everything started, because I never had the chance to go to Venezuela to meet them before. So I met them in Los Angeles when they were preparing Fidelio. They thought I was crazy because I was with my producer Cristina, which is already here, and Andrea, my DOP. And we were kind of searching the way we wanted to tell the story, because at the end, at the beginning, it was like how they were doing Fidelio. But when I interviewed them, I understood and I found like their stories, they were so profound, and it really touched me, and I didn't know anything about the deaf community. So for me, having the opportunity to find in the choir some people who tell their story, and for them to really have the opportunity to be seen, because the way they were telling me their stories, they were feeling so bad about their own situation, and I found out that music was the only way they could survive, and they could have inspiration, and they could be part of a group and have a reason in their own lives. So I found like Jennifer, Gabriel, and Jose, it really touched my heart, and because they didn't have the figure of the mother, it really makes me feel like I have to tell their story. So it was about intuition somehow. I'm also an actress, and I know about see people and emotions, and that's my way of living. So I found in them that the lack of the mother was telling something very deep in themselves, and how normally the society infantilizes deaf people. That's how I found with the choir members, and I wanted to emphasize that they don't have their own mothers, but they are independent, and I wanted to have that in to be shown. So that's how I found like Jennifer, Gabriel, and Jose. They should be the ones, but I didn't know, like, and this is for sure, and Gustavo can tell the truth, that I never knew that how far this was gonna go, because we never know that they were gonna go the parts, for example. So it was just like we were following them, and we were following them too much. Sometimes they didn't understand, but they trust us. They really opened their hearts.
How did you get, because wow, the comfort level that they all had with you, how did you achieve that?
I think in the Los Angeles period, they get to know us, and I think because we were just 3 girls being with them, becoming one member of the choir as well with our cameras, and I think they understood me somehow, like we were kind of part of them. But it was when we arrived to Venezuela, and we were asking, like, okay, we're here, like we want to film you, and we showed them the way we wanted to show their own lives. They opened their own hearts, and sometimes, like, of course, we had our own interpreter, but sometimes we ended up, for example, with Jennifer, to have Cesar, her boyfriend, helping us interpret her, because she was feeling so secure with us, and it was just little by little they trust us, and I think that's the most beautiful part of all this, like how they have trust us, and how I, as a director, I have the need to tell their story in the right way, because we could have another documentary, but my first need, and my team can tell that, like I was telling them, like, we have to dignify their own lives. This is the most important thing. So it has been a journey of love, and that's what it is. And the most important thing for me is that they see themselves the way we show them, and that's the most important thing for me, that they can see themselves.
And it's not only do you do that in terms of creating an environment clearly where they feel comfortable and safe to reveal a private moment, many private moments. The cinema of this documentary is inspiring, to say the least. For example, Jennifer speaks about how her family never learned to sign. And we're watching that while she's barely in the frame. And you have a horizontal line over her head, and then you have what feels like family portraits, which is aesthetically exactly the emotional state of what we're hearing her say. That shot floored me. Can you just talk a little about how the evolution of that composition, and how that was just so perfect for that moment?
Well, the whole movie has been made in the editing room.
No, but that, I mean.
I know, yeah, but we were, no, I mean, like, we were just making
Postcards?
postcards?
Yeah.
Postales?
I don't speak Spanish.
Say it again, sir?
Postcards.
Postcards.
Yeah.
So we were filming their truth, like their houses, and for me it was important to have like very long shots and to show the reality. That's her house, which actually she painted before we went because she wanted to show her house in the beautiest way. So when we were filming there, her. Sorry, she doesn't understood why I was just filming, and I just asked her to be herself and to just think about, and because I wanted to have that contrast of telling her story while you were seeing her grandmother and their old life estable, como without movement and without evolution, and just she is the future, but she's alone. So, and with the colors, and it makes a big contrast of how she feels and how she felt, and the strength she has that she can with that wall that she has behind.
And even the cup, she's barely in it, you know.
Yeah.
Your sound design. When you chose to dip the sound out, when the heartbeat, when the soloist is singing and Jennifer's holding her chest, that moment. So talk about that, and then how you were able to cinematically convey that to all of us watching.
Yeah. First of all, we thought it was the most beautiful moment to be in them and with them in the most happiness moment of your
Birth.
life.
Yes.
Having your own child and having that opportunity with Gabriel and to missing the sound and feeling the way he was feeling. I thought it was the most powerful moment to start like changing the point of view, right? And with the singing of Jennifer, it was so beautiful. It happened for real. So and the way she could understand much better for her in order to sign better and to act better. It was for us so important, and to make like it completely has the way all the story really changed, and she really feels that she can get it better, and is the connection with the singer, which I think is the most important part of all this, like how two people very different like can be together just through the sound, and to take out the sound, it makes you feel like, of course, like it changed your point of view completely, and you feel like you are Jennifer, and you can really understand music in a different and a deeper way. That's how the singers also said, like, they will never make music the way they used to do it. So it completely changed the experience for them, and the way and the reason and the goal to make music, which I think that's the whole journey of Coro de Manos Blancas, and also the That Was Theater. I think is changing the point of view with the hearing people we have to do it.
I was so excited to meet them tonight. And, hopefully, this documentary and films like this and this exposure, we will have that opportunity. Tell us a little bit about what they're up to.
Well,
I love in the credits seeing the music video and all the places they've gone around the world. It's just incredible.
Well, they are doing concerts in Venezuela, but the most important thing for me, and I'm very proud of them, is that Jennifer is in the university studying.
Jennifer is an incredible actor. That was very clear. Very clear. And my favorite thing is when she said, "No, you need to cut this." I love that she spoke up. She said, "I need to see it. I'm sorry, you're going to have to cut this." You know, it was so wonderful. I was like, she's going to go a long way.
Hopefully, yeah. For sure. No.
What is next?
To spread this word, I think is the most beautiful thing is like how music transforms lives for everybody, and I think it's important to share this message. And I think everybody here, like we put our seed, and that's our responsibility to keep doing it and to keep multiplying, and to have role models. I think that's what I have learned, and that's how the choir and the Manos Blancas had having experience with that was theater. Like having people to see themselves, to see their own future in somebody, and to recognize themselves like no matter who you are, like you can be everybody that you dream about. And I think that's thanks.
So keep doing that.
So keep doing.
Yes. Gustavo, can you just speak a little bit about how this affected you? How this affected you? Do you have a microphone? Yeah. Yes, of course. And I mean, I feel like it changed me just watching it. Tell if you just share, did this change your conducting? And if so, how? In what way? Just talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, completely. You know, I think art have this kind of very deep and mysterious path that if we take the risk to cross, it destroys any barrier that you can think.
Yep.
And this is something that I learned because Maestro Valverde, he always was challenging us to think beyond what we were playing, what you see in this note, what it provokes, but how intellectually that can help or can transform another thing that is not related directly to the technique of music, but can enhance or improve society. That was always a conversation with him. And this, for me, every time that I have the chance to, even to perform, is a moment of transformation. After a performance, I feel different. And it's something there, and it happens to us, you know. I'm sure after you do a film, you know, the process is so deep. But especially taking these journeys to the impossible. You know, making an opera, an amazing opera, the only one that Beethoven wrote, but in a way that can be a message of freedom through integration. It's not inclusion.
Yes.
It would be very arrogant to say that we want to include the deaf community in the hearing community. It's the process of integrating that is unique. And that is the process. That is the natural process. When you start, Maria knows that deeply. We didn't know where this was taking us. We didn't know. And And it was always evolving in a way. I have a lot of faith, you know. This is something that I feel. I don't believe on it. I feel, you know. I really feel God. And this is something that takes you in a way that something impossible, it becomes the most natural journey. And when we started, Maestro Valverde started this program in 1995. I was 14 years old, and I conducted the first concert of this choir. I think Jennifer was 9 years old. She was in that choir. Later, 2 years later, Gabriel was part of that. And I was a teenager. I didn't understand anything, but I was creating a connection with the impossible. You know, some young people, deaf people singing Ode to Joy. And I was conducting that, and for me it was the most natural way to connect with the community. But how to make justice of that process is the most important thing. This is about justice. It's about the justice to a community that sometimes is separate because no reason. It's only because reality is only here for humans, you know. But sometimes when you change the vision, you see that it's a complete different world there. And there you start to, I didn't create anything. It was Beethoven. It was Maestro Valverde. It was the deaf, the white hand choir. It was deaf, it was the theater. Alberto, Maria. It was a process of many people. One day sitting and let's think, you know, the impossible. And I think this is the thing that is what we have to think as artistic institutions. It's not only to come here and perform a concert, and because of course we are bringing a feeling, we are bringing a connection, but how to use art as a real tool of social transformation.
And for DJ and Melissa, where are we in this road of integration, would you say today, number one? And what can we do to help it?
Heavy question for the end.
Sorry, just take the first part.
My first answer is make more art.
Yes,
Yeah.
make more
I mean,
art.
in this world that we're all in, the transformative nature of this movie is we're pushing boundaries, and that's what we have to continue to do. We have to share our story with the world. And you saw in the beginning, it was a very powerful way of listening, but not just listening, but seeing music. And to me, that's the best journey for us, is to chase that honor of creating art together.
I would totally agree. I think that the more we're seen in art, it liberates us. It really is. The film was just a beautiful example of showing, especially Gabrielle and Jennifer, when they had their child, the birth experience. There was no interpreter in the hospital room. Jennifer had no idea what the conversations were around her. Saying, don't push, hold, she didn't, at what time. I mean, she was missing all those details. Whereas in America, and with the Disabilities Act and ADA, there's legal requirements to provide interpreters, and many services like early intervention that are offered. But I mean, even with these services in place for access and communication, there's still obstacles. But what your film showed is that through love we can make these changes, right? And building a community we can make these changes. And I think there's such a vast difference between inclusion and coming together to create. I think your point is very important to note.
And the challenges that come with creating art. That's one of the other things I love about this film, what Jose had to go through. And I love that he says, you know, I look forward to playing that role one day. You know, Beto was tough, the director. And that you know, that realistic portrayal that I can relate to watching it, you know, in which all of us who try to create art know the journey is treacherous and demands a lot of you. And to see that in this way was sobering in a wonderful way. I'm just so grateful. What an incredible night.